volleyball is never gonna be the same again. And no, this isn't clickbait. FIVB has officially started testing new rules, and if even part of them makes it into the final version, the volleyball we're used to could change a lot. Fewer whistles, more substitutions, new challenge options. The ceiling is no longer automatically out. Coaches will be allowed to communicate with the first referee, and passers will get more freedom even before the toss on serve. But honestly, the most interesting part isn't even that. Before the official confirmations, there were rumors about way more radical changes. People were talking about allowing liberos to serve, about liberos being able to set overhead from the front row, about softening the rules on touching the net and antenna. Now that would have been a real revolution, but none of those ideas made it into the official FIVB package. At least not yet. And that not yet is the key part here. Because the fact these ideas were even discussed says a lot. World Volleyball is looking for a new format, faster, cleaner, more dynamic and maybe more viewer-friendly for people who don't want to spend every other rally figuring out why the ref blew the whistle again. These changes were actually approved back in winter, but I decided to talk about them only now because the Volleyball Nations League is about to start, and that's where all these new rules will be tested. Let's start with serve-receive. Right now, the receiving team can only move after the server tosses the ball. Until that moment, everyone has to stay in the correct rotation and basically just freeze there waiting. Under the new rules, players will be allowed to move as soon as the server starts their serving motion. First step, arm swing, approach, and the receivers can already shift around. In reality, this almost completely removes positional faults. That rule mostly existed for referees and statisticians anyway, so they could track rotations, know who's front row and back row, and keep the serving order straight. Plus, this will definitely get rid of those fake tosses that are already banned in a lot of leagues. On paper it sounds minor, but with how fast the game and serves have become, this could really add more flow to volleyball. Teams will have more flexible passing formations, setters will have an easier time getting to target, which could improve set quality and make offensive systems even smoother. So receive might become more dynamic, formations more flexible, and the battle between serve and pass even more interesting. Next up, substitutions. FIVB wants to increase them from 6 to 8 per set, and coaches are definitely smiling about this one already. Because 2 extra subs isn't just 2 more guys entering the court. It's an extra serving sub late in the set, it's bringing in a bigger block against a specific hitter, it's more flexibility with defensive and passing systems, it's a chance to control the tempo better and use the bench deeper, if you actually have a deep bench, of course. But there's a catch. At the same time, FIVB wants to speed the game up and reduce interruptions, and more substitutions naturally mean more stoppages. So everything depends on how teams use them. If coaches use them smartly, we'll get more tactics. If they overdo it, matches could start feeling choppy, especially late in sets. Now for one of the weirdest changes, the ceiling won't always mean the rally is dead anymore. Right now it's simple. If the ball touches the ceiling, structure, camera or anything above the court, rally over. But under the new rules, if the ball hits something overhead after the first or second contact and stays on your side, play continues. Your team can still save it. Imagine this. A defender makes a crazy dig, the ball flies way up, clips the ceiling structure, but drops back down onto your side. Before, dead ball. Now play on. But if the ball crosses to the opponent's side after touching the ceiling, that's still a fault. And if it hits a spider cam or crane camera above the playing area, it becomes a replay ball. Honestly, that makes total sense. Though this rule feels way more relevant for amateur volleyball, because let's be real, at the pro level these situations almost never happen. But when you're playing in a tiny school gym, those little ceiling touches used to completely kill the rally. Now the play keeps going, and honestly that's awesome, even though in some countries amateurs have already been playing with rules like this for years. Not every change is about giving players more freedom though. In some areas, FIVB actually wants stricter officiating. They want tighter calls on lifts, carries, throws and prolonged contacts. So all those soft tips, two-handed pushes, weird attacking contacts where one ref lets it go and another whistles immediately. Now they want a much clearer and stricter standard. And this could get spicy, because volleyball is full of situations everybody sees differently. One exact same play in one match is called a genius tip, and in another match it's a lift. FIVB wants to remove that gray area. But if the interpretation gets stricter, players will have to adapt fast. Especially attackers who love finesse shots. Although if you look at beach volleyball, they've already been strict about this forever and nobody really complains. So honestly, maybe indoor volleyball becoming a little cleaner and more aggressive offensively isn't a bad thing. Another huge idea, and fewer whistles. Yeah, sounds weird because volleyball without whistles feels impossible, but FIVB wants refs to stop whistling obvious situations, clear in balls, obvious outs, net touches or obvious blockouts. The logic is simple. If everyone already knows what happened, why stop the flow with another whistle? Fewer unnecessary signals means smoother rhythm, better pace and less feeling that the match is constantly interrupted. For viewers, especially newer fans, this could actually be a huge plus. A lot of people still don't understand why refs whistle after literally every obvious rally ending play. But players will definitely need time to adjust. Because the whistle isn't just a sound. It's confirmation that the rally is officially over. If there are fewer whistles, we'll probably get some funny moments at first where one player already relaxed while another is still playing, because nobody knows if the point ended or not. After all, we've all heard the phrase our whole volleyball life: play until the whistle. FIVB also wants to clean up communication between coaches and referees. Right now, we constantly see the same scene. Coach at the sideline, arms out, emotions everywhere, asking questions, sometimes putting on a mini-show, and sometimes a full-on theater performance. Under the new rules, head coaches will officially be allowed to approach the first referee to clarify a challenge or ask for an explanation. But that doesn't mean endless arguing is allowed now. Complaints and protests are still banned. So the idea is this: asking for clarification, okay. Putting on a show, not okay. For example, a coach can ask why the referee made a certain call or request an explanation. The goal is to make communication calmer and clearer instead of turning every controversial point into a screaming match across the whole court. Double contact on sets is still another big topic. Here, FIVB isn't making a revolution, but they are confirming the approach. Double contact on the second touch is allowed as long as the ball stays on your side, so if the setter handles a tough dig or bad pass imperfectly but still delivers the ball to the hitter, the rally continues. And this is huge for entertainment value, because how many beautiful rallies died before just because the setter got called for a double? Players would make insane saves, and then one tiny technical mistake killed the whole play. Now the logic is different. If the ball didn't immediately travel over the net and create a direct advantage, let them keep playing. Now video challenges are getting really interesting. FIVB wants to include defensive touches and serve. Receive touches in the challenge system. Before, those plays were often impossible to review properly. For example, a defender barely grazes the ball before it flies out, and the team screams "touch." Or on serve, receive the ball clips a player slightly but the refs miss it. Now those moments can be reviewed. Although Poland has already been doing this for a long time. But honestly, I think the issue isn't the rule itself. It's the technology. All those high-speed cameras are insanely expensive. At the same time, FIVB added an important condition. To overturn the original decision, the video has to show a clear and visible contact. Not "we think so", not "you can tell by the player's reaction". There has to be actual visual proof. If there's no proof, the referee's original decision stands. And honestly, that's the right approach. Because otherwise, every second challenge would turn into a pixel investigation, where everybody stares at the screen trying to guess whether the ball touched someone or not. The most high-tech change is the live tagging system during rallies. The idea is this. Teams will be able to mark controversial moments while the rally is still happening, and after the point ends, if they lose it, they can choose one of the tagged moments for review. And this actually changes the game for coaching staffs. You won't be able to lose a 30-second rally and then suddenly say, "Hold on, let's check something from the middle of the play." Nope. If you want to challenge something later, you need to tag it immediately. Didn't mark it? Sorry, too late. This adds a whole new layer of speed and concentration to volleyball. While players are blocking, swinging, digging and scrambling, somebody on the bench has to instantly spot a controversial moment and mark it in time. If there were multiple questionable moments during the rally, the first one gets reviewed. A mistake from the staff could cost a point. And at the end of a set, maybe even the match. Again, everything is clearly aimed at improving game flow. I'm guessing this info will somehow be transferred directly to the video review officials, so they can already start searching for the clip while the teams keep playing. At the same time, FIVB also wants to reduce long interruptions. A team that requests a challenge won't be allowed to immediately call a timeout afterward, so challenges can no longer be used as a free break before stacking another timeout on top of it. We've all seen endings like this. Challenge, pause, timeout, substitution, another pause, another controversial point, and suddenly the whole rhythm of the game disappears, while the server probably already forgot they're supposed to put the ball in play. FIVB clearly wants to stop matches from turning into endless interruptions, especially during the biggest moments. And honestly, I'm fully on board with that one. Even the warm-up is changing. During the hitting portion, both teams will stay at the net, but they'll serve separately. One team serves for a minute and a half, then the other team serves for a minute and a half. The reason is simple – safety. Because right now, warm-ups sometimes look like controlled chaos. Balls flying everywhere, people jumping, landing, and suddenly stepping on another team's ball. The new format should lower injury risk and make warm-ups more organized. And while pro teams already manage this stuff pretty well, for amateur volleyball this could be a really useful change. Roster rules are changing too. At FIVB tournaments, teams will be allowed to register between 12 and 14 players, but every team must have at least one libero. The second libero can now be chosen from the registered roster no later than 1 hour before the match. This gives teams much more flexibility. Before, the rules were stricter. If you registered 13 or 14 players, you usually needed 2 liberos. With only one libero, you were limited to 12 players. Now coaches will have way more roster options. And once again, this brings us back to the libero topic, because the biggest rumors before the official release were all about that position. Imagine if liberos were actually allowed to serve. They would stop disappearing during service rotations. Rotations themselves would change, and the value of players who can not only pass and defend, but also serve consistently would skyrocket. And if liberos were allowed to set overhead from the front row, that could completely change out-of-system offense after bad passes. Teams would basically gain another emergency setter in difficult situations. But again, none of those rules made the official package. Right now those are just early rumors and ideas discussed before the FIVB release. Still, I wouldn't completely rule them out. At least in American college volleyball, liberos can already serve, so the idea itself isn't unrealistic. The only question is whether international volleyball is ready for that step yet. The main thing to understand is this. For now, everything is just a test. Not final rule changes, not new volleyball starting tomorrow, but an experiment. FIVB has tested different formats before too. For example, at the U23 World Championship, they played sets to 15 points and matches to 4 winning sets. There was even a rule where servers weren't allowed to land inside the court after serving. But none of those ideas made it beyond testing. So right now there's no need to scream that volleyball is ruined. But at the same time, these changes shouldn't be underestimated either, because the direction is very obvious. FIVB wants the game to become faster, cleaner in rhythm and easier for viewers to follow. Fewer unnecessary whistles, fewer long pauses, more rallies staying alive, more tactical options for coaches and more transparent video reviews. The only question is where the limit is. Because volleyball has always been about balance. If officiating gets simplified too much, the technical side of the game could suffer. If matches become too fast, chaos could take over. And if liberos get too much freedom, the entire structure of the game could eventually change. That's why the upcoming national team tournaments are going to be especially interesting. We'll see which rules actually make volleyball better, and which ones only sounded good in a presentation slide. Personally, I'm most interested in the ceiling touch rule for amateur volleyball, and honestly, I still think the libero discussion is coming back eventually. Because if volleyball keeps moving toward more speed and dynamics, the libero role will almost certainly expand sooner or later. Now write in the comments, which of these rules do you like the most, which one sounds completely ridiculous to you, and the biggest question of all, would you want liberos to be allowed to serve? Because that one could genuinely change volleyball forever. And as always, it was Nick with you. Love what you do and success will come. See you soon. Bye.